Hello everyone, today is 9th of June. My name is Sahil and welcome to the newspaper analysis. Now guys, first of all, let's take the overview of the entire newspaper first. Now, on to the first page, we can see that the Supreme Court had said that ensure the break into the studies is not there onto the children who have been hit by pandemic. So guys, we will be seeing this particular article. After that guys, the article with respect to the center placing order for COVID vaccine, not at all important guys. Please don't go into such kind of ball by ball development. Then guys, here we can see one particular article, just a one liner concept. You can utilize it as a case study into the Arunachal Pradesh. When the people were developing a vaccine hesitancy, a kind of an incentive was given that every person who will be coming, he will be given the 20 kg of free rice. So this thing has worked really very well. So such kind of innovative ideas could be utilized. Then guys, on to the page number 1, other important news are not there. Now here guys, just one liner concept, we can see that the new election commissioner has been appointed, Mr. Anup Chandra Pandey, who had been a retired IAS officer. And guys, Mr. Sushil Chandra, he has been elevated to the chief election commissioner. Then guys, moving to the second page, guys, here we can see that the eyewitness has asked the witness protection. So guys, into this context, we will be seeing the witness protection scheme announced by the Supreme Court. Then guys, further moving, the other other articles are not important for our UPSC examination. Moving on guys, here also it is a city page, nothing important with respect to the examination. Then guys, the south page also is not containing anything relevant, please avoid it. Then guys, coming on to the editorial page, now this particular article is talking about the importance of gene sequencing into the pandemic control, and we will see that what it is all talking about. Then guys, this particular article is talking about the recent announcement by the government with respect to the vaccination policy. Already guys, yesterday we have seen it into a much detail. Then guys, this article is talking about the Maldives foreign minister being selected as the president of the United Nations General Assembly. So we will see that what implications there will be for India. Then guys, this article, it is talking about the Lakshadweep. Now guys, the article is very much generalistic and it is into a critical tone, but and with respect to the UPSC, much important substance is not there, you can leave it. Then guys, this article is talking about the third wave of COVID-19. Please ignore it because such kind of everyday developments are not needed. Then guys, this article, it is talking about how to build the social trust with respect to the government, and into that context it will be important, we will discuss it. Then guys, coming here, we can see that the new norms with respect to the digital content has been announced, we will see this thing. Then guys, here we can see that the Ladakh 100% jobs have been reserved for the domicile city residents, will see this thing. Then guys, here we can see that the JNU had entered the world ranking which is announced by the QS. So what implications are there, we will see this thing. Then guys, here we can see that the crackdown on fake medicines and all such kind of things are not important for the examination. Then guys, there the defense minister had lauded the India Sweden ties into the defense production. Now guys, into the article much substance has not been there. Then guys, coming into the next page, so this particular article is also filled with the news not important for the UPSC examination. The prime minister had taken the vaccine and the vaccine given to the private hospitals are loot, not important. Now guys, here we can see that the Supreme Court is talking about that steps need to be taken against the illegal adoption. Now guys, into last few days, multiple times we have discussed this article. Even yesterday we discussed this entire thing, nothing new here. Now coming to the next page guys, here we see that the BRICS onto the BRICS platform, the China is opposing the selective multilateralism. We will see this entire thing what it is. Then coming to the next page guys, here the World Bank had further estimated the India's growth, so we will just see that what it is. However, other articles are not actually important for our examination. So guys, that is all about the today's newspaper, and now let's discuss these articles one by one. Now first of all guys, let's take the today's GS quote. So today we will be taking a quote from Mahatma Gandhi ji, who had talked about the true nature of democracy. Gandhi ji says that democracy is an impossible thing until the power is shared by all. But let not democracy degenerate into mobocracy. Now guys, Gandhi ji says this thing that democracy is the rule by the common people or the power into the hands of the common people. But at all the time, it is needed to be kept in mind that justice is also to be upheld. The vulnerable sections, the minority sections, the people who are voiceless, their concerns are also needed to be kept into the mind. Otherwise, the real Ram Rajya, which democracy also tries to bring, will never be coming. Now guys, here the mobocracy means that the tyranny of the majoritarianism should not be there. Just because the people have the strength, they should not be given all the power to make the decision. Fine. Guys, this particular idea we can utilize for our GS paper number 2 as well as into the essays. There are many a times the themes onto the democracy. So there also we can utilize this particular idea. So that is all for the GS code, and now we will be taking the newspaper articles in detail. Now guys, taking up the first article. So here we have clubbed the two articles from the Hindu newspaper, and both will be important for GS paper number 2 under the social justice theme, education. Now, this particular thing is very much known that the impact of pandemic onto the education has been very much severe. According to the one study given by the UNICEF, it has been said that 888 million children around the world have been directly or indirectly affected by the pandemic. Now guys, the digital divide problem is there, the pedagogy many a times is not suitable for the children. All these are the problem. But the most vulnerable even among the student are the disabled student or the student with the special needs. Now guys, if we talk about the India, then it has been provided into the census of 2011 that approximately 2.11% population of India is of disabled people, and among them many are the students also. Now guys, as per the Vidhi Center for Legal Policy, it has been said that 50% of the NCRTs up till now are not accessible, particularly to the blind children. Fine. And this particular thing is keeping the disabled, particularly the blind children, deprived of the education into the pandemic. Now guys, if we talk about India, India has a kind of a global obligation also here. For example, India had signed as well as ratified the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and as per this particular convention, the article number 9 says that it is the government's responsibility that all the kind of resources which are needed for a dignified life, they are needed not to be made just available but accessible also. Now into this particular light guys, government earlier even came out with the Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan or the Accessible India campaign, where an effort was made that how the libraries can be made accessible, public buildings can be made accessible, but nothing much had happened, and that particular deficiency has now been exposed into the times of pandemic, where the resources of education are not friendly to the disabled people. Now guys, what had happened, coming to the particular news now, this particular background was needed so that you can understand the context. Now the Ministry of Education had declared the guidelines with respect to the digital content so that the differently abled people can also access that digital content. Earlier this digital content was mainly into the text format. Now what has happened, it has been said that India needs to make the content perceivable. Fine, it needs to bring a kind of an operable guidelines, understandable guidelines, and robust guidelines for the disabled people so that they can access the education material. It has been said that all the education content needs to be made available into the audio format, visual format, as well as into the tactile way. Also, it is needed to be made sure. Moreover, it has been said that screen readers are to be provided to the people now who are disabled. Screen readers guys, it is a kind of a software which is making it possible that the blind people can also access the computer resources. So what a screen reader will be doing, suppose I am a blind person and I am seeing I am operating a computer, so onto the computer there are the images, there are the text, many things are there. So the screen reader will read it out that okay, this is an image, into the image a person is doing this, then this is a heading, under the heading this has been given. So all that particular thing is made possible by the screen reader. So all these particular things are to be embedded in all the digital content that is being made available. But guys, this particular thing again, it has been said that whether it will be implemented onto the ground or not, it is a kind of a concern. So these particular guidelines have been given. So guys, we can quote the Ministry of Education if it is coming that what government's effort are so that the education is available to all. Now this is one aspect. Then guys, other aspect into the studies which is coming is that there are many of the children who had been orphaned due to the COVID-19, and because of that they might now not be able to continue their studies, particularly if they are into the private schools. So therefore it has been said that the Supreme Court has provided that government needs to make an effort that their studies are not disrupted. Now guys, this particular thing is not only available with respect to their education, but guys, it is also important with respect to the sociological impact that will be created onto their psychology. Because guys, a child had lost the parents, and now when he will be dropped out of school, that particular thing might be giving a kind of a societal shock onto him. Fine, and he might not be able to adjust into the new surroundings. So therefore, such a kind of a thing is also very much important. So guys, that is all about these two articles. I hope you have understood, and now we will be moving to the next article. Now friends, this article again talking about is important for the education sector, particularly the higher education. See, many a times it is said that India's higher education institutions, they have turned into a kind of a mediocrity. They are not giving the skill-based education. Fine, even the engineers as well as the graduates who are coming out of the higher institutions, they are not employable. And into this particular thing, a study of NASSCOM becomes very much important, which says that majority of Indian graduates are not employable, and additional expenditure is to be made by the hiring companies. No, into this particular, because of this particular thing, it is often even said that the Indian universities are not coming into the top 100 list or top 1000 list. So guys, into this thing, what has happened? Now some improvement is being seen into the last few years. Now, when we talk about the global ranking of the universities, most reliable and most prestigious kind of institution here, which brings out the ranking, is the QS, that is the Quick Rally Simons. It announces the QS World Ranking, into which the higher institutions are ranked. Now guys, it gives two type of ranking. Number one is the ranking to the university, fine, and second is the subject wise ranking to the different institutions. For example, with respect to the civil engineering, this particular university stands at this number. With respect to the political science honors, this particular university ranks at this number. So subject wise ranking as well as overall ranking of the university. Now guys, what had happened, basically the JNU, the Jawaharlal Nehru University, had made into the top 1000 list. Fine. Now first of all, let's see the important parameters on to which basis this ranking is announced. So guys, ranking of the university is announced onto the basis of 6 parameters. They are the academic reputation of an institution, which has been given the 40% weightage. Then it is the employer reputation, faculty student ratio, citations per faculty, okay, the faculty's research paper they are publishing, the impact those research papers created, international faculty ratio and international student ratio. Onto this particular basis, the universities are ranked. And guys, if we talk about this QS ranking, which has been now announced for the universities, 22 institutions into the India, they have been into the top 1000. Now, here we can see the relative rank. Now, guys, here the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Bombay is at the top with 177 rank. Then the IIT Delhi, IIT Bangalore, Madras, Kanpur, they have been given these ranks. So you don't need to remember the rank. Just 22 institutions are there. It will be more than sufficient. Then guys, when we talk about the Jawaharlal University, which has now been added, it has been ranked into the band of 561 to 570. Then further guys, when we talk about the subject wise ranking, there India is also performing good, and within the top 100 there are the 12 institutions which are there. Majority of them are the IITs, and particularly for the discipline of engineering they had ranked here. So guys, this is some of the data which we can utilize when we are talking about the state of higher education in India. So please keep it in your mind. So that is all about this article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this article is talking about the protection of a witness. Clear? And guys, into this particular context, we will be discussing the Witness Protection Scheme of 2018, which was announced by the Supreme Court. Now, before going into that scheme, let's take the basic context here. So guys, you might be knowing that the case of Sushil Kumar, which is the wrestler who even won the medals into the Olympics, it is going on. Fine. Now, into this, there are certain key witnesses, and they are fearful that they might have some implications onto their safety. So they have approached the court that they should be given a protection. Now, into this context, the Witness Protection Scheme comes. Now guys, the Witness Protection Scheme, first of all, it has been provided that under Article number 21, the right to life is there. And if any person is giving the witness into some of a critical matter, then he needs to be given a protection so that his Article number 21 is preserved. Further, guys, with respect to the witness protection in India, there are certain judgments also, and the most important is the Anirudh Singh judgment that was given by the Supreme Court, where Supreme Court said that now we need to provide a witness protection scheme. Even the 14th Law Commission report as well as the Malimat Commission report also mentioned about bringing the witness protection scheme. But guys, from the government's end, no such effort came. So therefore, finally, the Supreme Court in 2018, by using the powers given under Article number 142, he brought the witness protection scheme. Now guys, Article number 142, the Supreme Court has been given a power that with respect to doing the complete justice, it can issue any order or any decree. So under that power, the witness protection scheme was brought. Now guys, into this, the consultations were made with the NALSA, that is the National Legal Service Authority, and the Bureau of Police Research and Development. Now, what is this witness protection scheme? It has been said that all the states and the union territories, they need to establish a kind of a witness protection fund. This money will be utilized whenever a person will be approaching the authorities that he is a crucial witness and there might be an implication onto the safety. So then this particular money will be used. Now every year under the budget, via the budgetary allocations, the money had to be put into this particular fund. Now guys, it has been said that whenever a person wants a kind of a protection under the witness protection scheme, a kind of a threat analysis report is prepared clear when he approaches the authority. Now basically onto the basis of this onto the basis of this threat analysis report, the commissioner of police or the SSP who is responsible for this particular case will categorize that what type of threat is there onto that particular person. So it could be the category A threat, category B threat, or category C threat. Category A threat is the threat to life for that person as well as for the family. Category B means that a threat on some property is there. Category C means that a minor threat is there. So on to that particular basis, he will be given the protection. Now, protection could be like this, that the police will be escorting the person to the court premises. He might be given the police protection. He might be lodged into a safe house. And even the Supreme Court had provided that the states should make the vulnerable witness deposition complex. Now, these will be the facilities where the witness, without revealing his identity, without coming face to face with the accused, can give the testimony. Now guys, all this particular thing has been initiated, which is a kind of a good thing in order to further the justice. Now please guys, keep all these Supreme Court judgment, the recommendations given by the different commissions into your mind if a question onto such a line is coming. And also keep into your mind that such a scheme has not, and it is not an initiative of the government, rather it is an initiative of the judiciary. So into that particular direction, it can also be called as an example of judicial activism. Fine. So that is all guys about this particular article. I hope you have understood it, and now we will be moving to the next article. Now guys, this particular article is talking about a new decision that has been taken into the context of Ladakh. So guys, the Lieutenant Governor of Ladakh has announced that the 100% of the jobs into the Ladakh, they will be issued for the local people or the people of the Ladakh's domicile. Now guys, this particular thing has happened, and into the coming days a large number of opinions will also be coming onto this. But guys, before that, there is one particular dimension that we need to analyze. See, earlier into the context of Jammu and Kashmir also, the 100% domicile reservation was made, and when this particular thing happened, a petition was made into the Supreme Court where it was said that now the article number 370 has been scrapped, and now the Jammu Kashmir is just a union territory like the other union territories, and therefore they cannot come out with such a kind of a preferential treatment to their own people. So therefore it is the violative of article number 16 of the Indian Constitution, where the equality in terms of employment has been provided. So it was said that the order of Jammu and Kashmir is ultra vires to the constitution. However guys, the Supreme Court did not entertain that particular petition, and now what has happened into the context of Ladakh also, the new recruitment rules have been passed which are reserving the 100% job for the local people. Now guys, there are the justifications also which have been made onto this aspect. It has been said that owing to the geography, owing to the terrain, the opportunities for the employment has been very much limited into the Ladakh. So therefore the government and the jobs under the state are the only hope for these people, so that they can now be given the 100% reservation. But now guys, there might be a possibility that it can be challenged. So into coming days, if such kind of a thing will be coming, we will be seeing this particular matter again also. So guys, that is all about this article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now, guys, this article is talking about the selection of the foreign minister of Maldives as the president for the United Nations General Assembly. Now, first of all, guys, the United Nations General Assembly is one of the six organs of the United Nations system. Now, the United Nations General Assembly is basically the deliberative body where the policy discussions, etc., take place. And here, the term for 1 year, that is from 2021 to 2022, has been given to the Maldives. Now, guys, when we talk about the election of the Maldives to the UNGA, the major contender against with which the Maldives contended was the Afghanistan, and here the Maldives had emerged victorious. Guys, more than two-thirds of the states have voted into the favor of Maldives. Now, Maldives being a good strategic partner of India, it is something a good news for India. But guys, at the same time, there is some problems also which are associated with the Maldives election. See, what has happened? First of all, when we talk about the voting process that happens for the elections of the president of UNGA, it happens by the secret ballot. Now, but India, what it did, it already declared openly that we will be voting into the favor of Maldives. So, open support was shown. But guys, at the same time, as I told you that the contender was Afghanistan. So, what problem is that? Now, Afghanistan was the contender for the seat into the United Nations Security Council under the non-permanent members. But what Afghanistan did, it sacrificed its seat into the favor of India. And now, guys, for the 2-year term, India had been made as a non-permanent member of the UNSC. So it has been said that India had not respected the sacrifice of the Afghanistan, and it will be having the negative impact onto the expectations of the Afghanistan. Moreover, guys, this year Afghanistan is even more important to ensure that a kind of a security and a kind of a good conditions are there after the USA's exit. Now, we talk about this particular thing, and India has the justification also. India says that we voted because up till the time when we give the support, Afghanistan did not had announced that who will be the actual representative, and because of all such kind of things, we had already given the support to Maldives. Okay, fine. Apart from that, it has been said that now as the Maldives have been elected, there are certain key responsibilities on Maldives that it should take on. First of all, Maldives need to represent the cause of the island nations, particularly the SIDS, Small Island Development States, because the islands are facing a particular problem that now their survival is into the danger because of the increase into the sea level, because of the climate change and all such kind of things. So on to that particular matter, a credible decision is to be made. So for that, the Maldives need to take up a cause. Secondly, for the pandemic management, pandemic handling, the sharing of the with respect to the sharing of the vaccines, technology, etc., some credible thing is to be brought out. Then it has been said that now as the USA is making an exit from the Afghanistan, how to make sure that the Afghanistan emerges as a kind of a peaceful state and there is no terrorism which is coming again. So on to that front also some credible decision is to be taken. Then guys, for the multilateral reform also, Maldives should bring up the matter. Now, from so many years, India is talking about the reform of the United Nations Security Council and other global organizations also, because often it is believed that there the concern of the developing countries such as India is not very much representative, and entire Asia as well as Africa are underrepresented. So therefore the multilateral reform is needed. Then guys, it is also expected that the Maldives will be sensitive to the India's concerns, because the earlier president who belonged to the Turkey, he came out very openly into the support of Pakistan when the article number 370 was scrapped, and it was openly said that the Pakistan needs to bring up the cause for the Jammu and Kashmir, and it was going against the sovereign decision of India. So therefore the Maldives also being a country where the majority of population is of Muslims, it will not be taking such kind of a path. So all such things will be expected from the Maldives, and guys, it is hoped that the Maldives will be delivering on all such kind of aspects. So guys, that is all about this particular article. I hope you have understood it, and now we will be moving to the next article. Now guys, this article again has been taken from the editorial section, and it is talking about the importance of genome sequences into the pandemic fight so that the second wave can be halted and the third wave can be avoided. Fine. Now guys, taking up the important matters that have been taken into this particular article. Now, first of all, the most basic thing we will be taking is the general understanding of a genome, a very, very basic and simplified understanding. See, we all have the DNA. Now, the DNA is containing the all information with respect to our entire makeup. Fine. What will be the color of our skin? What will be the color of our eyes? What will be our physique? How we will be responding to the environment? All such things are there into the DNA. Now, guys, on to the basis of this particular DNA, there are the different genes which are making the different kind of proteins, and by that particular thing, we are basically functioning. But now comes the genome. So, what is the genome? Genome is the full DNA. Is it clear? Genome contains the all aspects of a DNA. Now, when we talk about the DNA is actually, guys, made up of four bases. Clear? They are called as adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine. Clear? Now, guys, these four bases, they are arranged, but in every particular DNA, guys, the arrangement of these four bases will be little bit different. So what genome sequencing is? Genome sequencing is simply identifying the arrangement of them. Is it clear? And on to that particular basis, guys, we can identify that whether the virus is mutating or it is the same. Is it clear? So, guys, if this structure of this DNA will be different into the two viruses, we can identify that it has mutated, and on to that basis, many of the decisions will be taken. Now, guys, talking about the genome sequencing and the pandemic fight. So many a times we see that the UK had been successful in containing the virus, USA has been successful, but we attribute their success only onto the one aspect, that is the penetration of the vaccine and the COVID appropriate behavior. But we forget that these countries had very regularly carried up the genome sequencing, and by that they have also able to control the virus. Now, guys, when we talk about the India's case, in India, we initially took up some good steps. For example, India set up the Indian SARS-CoV-2 Genomic Consortia, or the INSACOG, fine, which was given the task that the genome sequencing is to be done. But, guys, up till now, the basic genome sequencing have been happened only into the few thousand matters, and even the report with respect to the genome sequencing have also been very much delayed. And then the further delay has been made by the government in releasing the findings of the genome sequencing. Now, see, guys, into the context of the Delhi also, a particular genome sequencing was done by the CISR as well as other associate organizations, and it was found that the 36 basically it was found that into the 3600 genomic sequencing samples which were taken, the Delta variant was the major variant. The 60% of the samples were having the Delta variant. Now, guys, number one, the mutation has been done, and number two, this mutated virus had went into so many people. Now, guys, when we talk about the Delta variant, which was also called as the Indian variant, it is 50% more transmissible than the Alpha variant. And, guys, Alpha variant was 70% more transmissible by the earlier variant from which it got evolved. So, by every mutation, so much of the concerns are coming. And these things can only be known when regularly we will be doing the genome sequencing of the different virus, that how it got evolved, how it got changed. Now, guys, further, when we talk about the present circumstances, there are some kind of an urgent steps that are needed for the India. Number one, we need to scale up the genome sequencing in all the states up till the district level. When the samples of RT-PCR is being collected, some of them should also be sent for the genome sequencing. And on to that particular basis, we need to carry out the changes in approach that are needed. We need to come out with a kind of an holistic policy that how further India will be fighting with the virus. Then it has been said that, guys, apart from this, we also need to find the scientific and operational research that whether the vaccine which we are giving now, will it be effective with respect to the other emerging variants, other emerging mutations, because, guys, it has been many times said that the Covishield might not be that much effective against the Delta virus. So such kind of updated repository also needs to be there. Then, guys, further, there also we need to see that what immune escape and how much the reduced efficacy will be there. So therefore, the genome sequencing can actually be a very important tool and a very needed tool to give a kind of a customized and the need-based response to the COVID-19 pandemic fight. So this is a kind of a suggestion that, guys, you can give into your answers. I hope you have understood it, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now, guys, this article will be important for the GS paper number 1 as well as GS paper number 4, behavior, the social behavior. Now, before going into this particular article, a basic premise we will be taking. See, guys, there is the social trust. The trust that we have on our institutions, the trust that we have onto the government with the other stakeholders into society, that is the social trust. Now, India always it has been said that has a kind of a low social trust. We don't trust the government agencies, we don't trust our municipalities, we don't trust the municipal offices because what has happened? Never we had received a good response from them. Never we had received the resolution from them. Now, guys, however, on to the converse, if we see for the private sector entities, a social trust is increasing. For example, now guys, we are not hesitant to transfer our money to onto the another person's number. We are not hesitant that okay, but money got deducted and it is not transferred. Fine, this fear has been reduced very much. Why? Because the success that has been delivered by these platforms, it has been very much high. And when the consistently we are seeing the success rates and all such kind of things, we try to trust. Is it clear? Guys, today, very conveniently, we book a cab from the Uber and we are very much sure that, okay, within 3 minutes or 4 minutes, the cab will be arriving. Why? Because, guys, when we are using this interface, there is a near surety that every time a OTP will be coming, every time that OTP will be operational, every time the cab driver might be picking up to you. Sometimes there are some glitches also, but guys, the successes are far more higher. So, a social trust with respect to the private entities have been developed. Now guys, the same thing was also needed into the public sector also, because we had actually developed a kind of a nothing will happen attitude. Is it clear? We are not even reporting our complaints, our grievances into the public authorities, local bodies, because we believe no resolution will be there. Now guys, it has been said that the government needs to make sure that a social trust is generated, and therefore the feedback mechanisms are to be provided. Whenever complaint is being registered, he is to be needed to be given a kind of a timeline, what will be the resolution, the information such as the mobile number needs to be shared, that this is the nodal officer who will be solving. Here all such kind of things are to be done as the private sector has done, and then only the governance will become effective. Now guys, on to the same thinking line, what has done into the Andhra Pradesh e-governance foundation has partnered with the government, and they had came out with a citizen service delivery platform called as Pur Seva. Here, under this particular platform, whatever the citizens are having problem, they are being resolved into a particular kind of a timeline manner. Suppose I raised a complaint, I will be given a kind of a token number. By that, I can track all my complaint where it has reached. I also will be given the numbers of the officer who is responsible, and even a time will be given that okay, within this the resolution should be expected. Now when the SMS are coming, the problems are being resolved, what has happened? Even the complaints have also been increased. Now it is not because of the fact that people's problem have increased, but because now the social trust is coming. Now people are becoming more comfortable that okay, something will happen, so that nothing will happen attitude got changed into something will happen attitude. And now the people are trusting, and guys, this social trust is actually very much needed to achieve the dream of a functional state. Because guys, when the social trust will be there, people will pay their allegiances, they will pay their taxes, they will be abiding to the rules and the laws, they will be following whatever the schemes are there for the social justice. So therefore the social trust is to be developed, and therefore we can learn from the Andhra Pradesh government's model as well as from the private sector that how they are winning the trust, and such kind of things needed to be implemented into the entire country. Fine. So guys, that is all about this particular article. Please do utilize this example into the attitude conditioning as well as into the GS paper number 2 as a successful case study for e-governance. So that is all, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this article taken from the world page. Here nothing very much important is there, just we will be seeing a kind of a brief takeaway. So what has happened? The China, we have seen guys even the yesterday that it is becoming very much restless to see the countries of Quad coming together, and China is believing that the Quad is just against the China, and Asian NATO has also been given the name to the Quad. Now what has happened? China, through the BRICS platform, had said that we need to oppose the exceptionalism. Here, the China is saying that the Western countries, the developed countries, they are having their own version of multilateralism, their selective multilateralism. Is it clear? Into whatever platform the interest of the developed countries are being served, they give them more importance, and the other kind of institutions, other kind of multilateral platforms are just being ignored. So what has happened? The BRICS countries should come together and should take a stand against this selective multilateralism that is being taken by the world. Now guys, here when we talk about this word, it is also an indication towards the Quad, because Quad is also a selectively multilateral institute according to the China. Now just see this particular thing. Within the BRICS, I stands for India, and within the Quad also, that India is a member. So China is saying that India should take a stand against the India. Such kind of a thing is happening. Fine. So guys, basically a kind of an appeal had been made. You don't need to go too much into that thing, because nothing agreement, no memorandum of understanding, etc. is there. Just you need to see that how the China is becoming more and more restless into this particular scenario. So guys, just that's all about this particular aspect. And guys, even yesterday we had seen that under the ASEAN, into the Bangladesh, the China is making such kind of an appeals that the Quad needs to be sidelined. So that is all about this article. And now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, here just one thing we need to see, that the World Bank, into its global economic prospect report, had said that India will be growing at the rate of 8.3% into this particular fiscal year. Now guys, don't need to go too much into these particular numbers and things, because these are the speculative estimates and they will tend to change in every coming year. Is it in every coming, sorry, months? Fine. If the third wave will come, it will get changed. If India will be able to increase the vaccination, again it will be getting changed. Is it clear? So just a kind of an estimate, you can just quote it if you need it. No need to go too much into the details, because the substance has not been there, which will be utilizable for the examination. So guys, that is all about the today's discussion and the newspaper articles. I believe that the initiative is turning to be of utility for you. So that is all. Thank you so much.